Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa Parajikacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parajikacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavan ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 29th day of March, 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Oh, sorry. Let me try that again. On this 29th day of March, 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text number 28 on the bottom of page 408. You there? All right. Shubha Palarevam Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupaishyasi Shubha Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupaishyasi Shubha Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupaishyasi. Chant. Shubhasapapalarevam Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupaishyasi. Shubhasapapalarevam Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupaishyasi. Shubhasapapalarevam Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupaishyasi. Ed, you want to try? Shubhasapapalarevam Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupaishyasi. Go ahead. Shubhasapapalarevam Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sannyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mamupaishyasi. Shubha from auspicious, Ashubha and inauspicious, Palai results, Evam thus, Mokshase you will become free, Karma of work, Bandhanai from the bondage, Sannyasa of renunciation, Yoga the yoga, Yukta Atma having the mind firmly set on, Vimuktaha liberated, Mam to me, Upaishyasi you will attain. In this way you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. Purport. One who acts in Krishna consciousness under superior direction is called yukta. The technical term is yukta vairagya. This is further explained by Rupa Goswami as follows. Anasaktasya vishayan yataham upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255. Rupa Goswami says that as long as we are in this material world, we have to act. We cannot cease acting. Therefore, if actions are performed and the fruits are given to Krishna, then that is called Yukta Vairagya. Actually situated in renunciation, such activities clear the mirror of the mind. And as the actor gradually makes progress in spiritual realization, he becomes completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, at the end he becomes liberated, and this liberation is also specified. By this liberation he does not become one with the Brahmajyoti, but rather enters into the planet of the Supreme Lord. It is clearly mentioned here, Mam Upaishyasi, he comes to me, back home, back to Godhead. There are 5 different stages of liberation, and here it is specified that the devotee who has always lived his lifetime here under the direction of the Supreme Lord, as stated, has evolved to the point where he can, after quitting this body, go back to Godhead and engage directly in the association of the Supreme Lord. Anyone who has no interest but to dedicate his life to the service of the Lord is actually a sannyasi. Such a person always thinks of himself as an eternal servant, dependent on the supreme will of the Lord. As such, whatever he does it for the benefit of the Lord. Whatever action he performs it as service to the Lord. He does not give serious attention to the fruit of activities or prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas. For ordinary persons it is obligatory to execute the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedas, but although a pure devotee who is completely engaged in the service of the Lord may sometimes appear to go against the prescribed Vedic duties, actually it is not so. It is said, therefore, by Vaishnava authorities that even the most intelligent person cannot understand the plans and activities of a pure devotee. The exact words are Tanra Vakya Kriya Mudra Vigyaya Na Bujhoy, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2339. A person who is thus always engaged in the service of the Lord, or is always thinking and planning how to serve the Lord, is to be considered completely liberated at present, and in the future his going back home, back to Godhead, is guaranteed. He is above all materialistic criticism, just as Krishna is above all criticism. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Salakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So some of you may have noticed, I think we did this verse last time. I remember this verse on Asaktasya Vishaya. No harm, ever fresh.
Actually we did 29 also.
We did 29 too?
I think
no, we didn't.
We're supposed to do 29 today actually.
Yeah, anyway, we'll do 28, it's no harm. So, once again, let's look at the context. What is Krishna, he's saying, in this way? What way is that? That's text 27. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So the idea is that if all of our activities and all of our thoughts are dedicated to Krishna, then we're in this liberated state. There's certainly no, quote, good or bad reactions to it. Everything is burned up in the fire of devotional service. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahitam. We learned in the 5th chapter that when one is situated in devotional service, his every breath, every thought, every action is a sacrifice, if you will, an offering to Krishna. That verse I like to quote from the 11th canto. Kayena vacha manasendriyava buddhyatmanava anusatatabhavad kadodi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayetam. This is a verse spoken by the 9 Yogendras, which is really an expansion on Yat Karoshi Yadashnasi. And he lists everything, and the list includes whatever we have at our disposal. The body, kayena vacha, the words, the mind, manasa, the indriyas, the senses, the intelligence, the very self, whatever we have at our disposal due to our previous karma or activities, we have certain assets. With all of those things, whatever you do with them, you think, this is an offering to Narayan, this is an offering to Krishna. Imagine that, every step you take, it says, now I'm walking to the temple, or now I'm walking to my job to get money so that I can serve Krishna, whatever. But you're feeling that it's an offering to Krishna. Then there can be no reaction for that. You see, everything is burned up in the fire of devotional service. And that's the state of liberation. That's described in another verse Prabhupada would always quote, Iha yasya Hare Dase, Karmana Manasa Gira, Nikalashup Yavastasu Jivan Mukta Sa Uchite. Jivan Mukta, it means even if one is in this material world, he should be considered liberated if these conditions prevail. The first is Iha. Iha in this case it's not Iha, which means here, but it's long I, long A, which means when activities are all under the rubric of Hare Dase, service to Krishna, service to Hari. Karmana, Manasa, Gira. Your active senses, your knowledge acquiring senses, your words especially. Giving a list there covers pretty much everything. Nikala means all. Nikash avastasu jivan mukta sa uchite. So this is a liberated state. Now the devotee is not doing the activities to become liberated. This is a very important point. In the initial stage of Krishna consciousness or any serious yoga process, the impetus can be to get out of the rounds of birth and death, right, and attain liberation. But as you mature in devotional service, that motive sinks back into insignificance. Finally, it's not even considered. And Prabhupada would quote this verse from the Krishna Karnamrita, where Bilvamangal Thakur is saying to the Lord. He's always speaking to Krishna, and so many verses he's saying, now I'm seeing the Lord, he's come before me. He's physically blind, but his spiritual vision, he's seeing Krishna within. So he says, Bhakti Stvahi. Stvahi means to you, my Lord. Bhakti Stvahi. Bhakti Stvahi Sthidatata Bhagavan Yadisa, all Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one is fixed in devotion to you, Sthidatata Bhagavan Yadisa, Daive Nanak Palati, one will get the fruit of that devotion, which is Divya Kishora Murti, a vision of your divine adolescent form. Not liberation. And then he says, the third line, Mukti, as far as Mukti goes, Mukti Svayamukalitanjali Sevatesman. This Anjali, we know the Pushpanjali, right? So what's the Anjali? The Anjali is this mudra. Mudras are very important. Just like we see Radharani, when the curtains open and the beautiful Radha Giridhari are there. So what's that mudra? Anyone knows what that mudra is called? Abhaya Dan, the gift of fearlessness. She's saying, don't worry, just serve us, everything will be okay. So there's all kinds of mudras, there's mudras of anger and all kinds of things. So this is a mudra of how can I serve you? Now when I was working on the books, we came across this idea of the folded hands. The folded hands are like a Christian thing, right? You pray like this. There's no room in there for any flowers or anything. It's like, please, give me my daily bread, save me from this, give me that. Yeah. The Krishna describes, Chaturvadabhajanta, there's 4 kinds of people who come to me, and they beg, they're in trouble. A lot of people pray to God to, please, make me safe. Or they want money or something valuable. Arto digyasu, artati. Some are curious, and the best are those who are really in search of knowledge. They know that they're trying to increase their knowledge of God, knowledge of Krishna. So, whoops, I'm sorry, I forgot. Hare Krishna. Sorry about that. I thought I put it on silent. Okay, we won't be happening. So he's praying, and then he's getting the result. Mukti Swayam Mukalitanjali Sevita. She's at the door with the Anjali. How can I serve you? Mukti, personified. In other words, I'm not looking for her service right now. If I need it, she'll serve. And as far as Dharma, Artha, and Kama, the other 3 of the 4, there's 4 Vedic goals, right? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So whatever I need in terms of religiosity or wealth or sense gratification or Kama, take a little prasad, that'll be provided. They're also waiting there. But that's not my goal. The goal is simply one. Anya vilashita shunyam, simply to please Krishna. That's the goal of the real devotee. And that means no more karma. What does Brahma say? Famous line. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajan. From Lord Indra down to little Indra Gopagerm, everybody is bound up by their karmic reactions. But for the pure devotee who's in the fire of devotional service, Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajan. Govinda Krishna burns to ashes the seeds of your karma. They're like seeds. Some bring about nice fruits and flowers, good karma, and some bring in poisonous weeds, that harm you, right? So-called good and bad karma. It's all eradicated. There's no that's what so that's why it says Shubhashava Palarevam. Both the good and the so-called good and so-called bad results. The pala means fruits or results. Your moksha say you're free from that. Karma bandhanai. No more karma, no more bondage. Sannyasa yoga yuktarma. Such a person is truly renounced. And this idea of sannyas comes up again and again. It comes at the beginning of the 5th chapter. And Krishna is always defining it in terms of your consciousness. Not so much as an ashram that you enter. That's there also. But here it's very much in the final chapter, what's it called? The perfection of renunciation. It's all about sannyas, real sannyas. But here, this is not, he's not restricting it to some social, group. This is sannyasa yoga, in this way, linked to Krishna, with your soul linked to Krishna in yoga, bhakti yoga. This is real sannyas, renunciation. Vimukto mama paishyasi. And you're completely liberated, and you come to me. That's the idea. So this is after all the most confidential knowledge. It's going to culminate in the secret of all secrets. Just think of me. Become devoted. Worship me and bow down low. This is what you learn in day one in Gaudiya Vaishnav. Come to Hare Krishnas. But people, because there's a great entanglement in the other parts of the Vedas, people worshipping, karma kanda, trying to go to heaven, all these different mantras. Krishna is clearing it up here. He says the ultimate goal of all of this is to simply become my pure devotee. And then everything will be given. Whatever you need materially will be given. And at the end you'll come back to me and be reinstated in your natural, original position. Back home, back to God, Prabhupada's famous phrase. So that's what we should aspire for. And just a couple of words about this verse. This is near the beginning of the Bhakti-samrita Sindhu. And this defines what real vairagya is. Vairagya is a central principle of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was converted, from a Mayavadi, more or less, although he wasn't hardcore, he was like, he had the good fortune of being blessed by Lord Chaitanya. So when he got the revelation, Lord Chaitanya revealed the 6-armed form, and he became his ardent follower. He wrote these 100 verses. I think I mentioned that. I still have to give it to Rajendranandana Prabhu if he's thinking. He's watching. Tomorrow I'll try to do it. And then he wrote 2 other verses that are more famous. And he sent them to Lord Chaitanya. He sent a person to recite them. But before they were recited, Govinda, Lord Chaitanya's servant, he wrote them on the outside of the place where he was staying, the Gambhira. Because he knew, as soon as he looked at them, they glorify Lord Chaitanya as Krishna himself. And Lord Chaitanya didn't like that. So sure enough, as soon as he saw them, he ripped them up. But they were already written on the wall. They became very famous. And the most famous one deals with Vairagya. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga shikshata meka purushat purana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripambaduyas Tamaham Prapadye. So he's saying that that same ancient person, Krishna, has now appeared with the form of Lord Chaitanya in the name Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what does he come to do? To teach devotional service to himself, characterized by Vairagya and Vidya. Very two essential components of what we're trying to do here. Detachment and knowledge. And actually they go together. I'm not going to tell my story about the sweet rice again. You've already heard it. You haven't heard it yet. Have you heard it too? Okay. All right, but the idea is that knowledge should bring detachment. I mean, what's the whole point of Krishna say, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi? You should remember that this world is fraught with birth, old age, disease, and death. The threefold miseries, even on the material plane. Your parents try to teach you, don't drink, don't get into that culture, it's poison, it's intoxication, it'll ruin your brain and ruin your life, In other words, be detached from it. And if you know enough, right, if you read about it, every day I get these things from WebMD, they know I'm an old guy, So they're sending me all the things, and then they know that I don't remember, so they send me the same thing again. You know, he must be a little demented. So there was something about what alcohol does to your brain. Oh my God. You know, it kills the brain cells. The older you get, if you drink, the worse it is. You know? I mean, it's obvious. For us, it's like, thank God, you know, we're free of that. I mean, who wants that, you know? But more to the point, any kind of sense gratification is poison. I like to point this out. The word vishaya, which means sense gratification, and the word visha, poison, very similar in Sanskrit, isn't it? It's not an accident. There's some verses like that, vishaya, visha. So why is it poison? Because it assures you another birth. You know, it assures that you're going to come back. Nunam pamata kurate vikarma. Lord Rishabdev, in some of his famous verses, he says, certainly those who are simply dedicated to sense gratification, indriya priti, which exactly translates to sense gratification, are mad, matta kurate vikarma, because they should have, if that's their whole focus, they should have performed vikarma, which is going to give them a bad next birth. They'll be lucky if they be human beings. And just, you know, having a good birth, having a human birth or having any material birth is being suffering. So what's the point? You're going to enjoy a little bit now and suffer a whole lot later. If you know that, vidya, then you can try to become detached, vairagya, you see. But but knowledge is not enough. You have to have a practice, you have to have a process to make you attached to the transcendence, attached to Krishna. Then you can get real vairagya. Right at the beginning of the Gita, 2nd chapter, it's famous verse. This is Vishaya. Vishayabanivartande nadaharasya dehina. Rasavarjam. Rasopyasya param jishranavartate. By force, one can renounce certain sense objects. And it happens all the time. When people trying to, you know, get off the alcohol addiction, right? So it's not easy, you know, it's not easy. And then if you go to a certain, I think they have, what do they call them? You know, there's, of course, there's AA up here, you know, where you get spiritual, you get help, you know, an association, and maybe you can do it. Then you get a little coin. I've been sober for 6 weeks, you know, I've been sober for 2 months, you know. They wanted, I had a friend, actually, the son of a devotee had become alcoholic. And we were friends, and he sent him all the way out here from Alachua to get some association, you know. He thought it would do him good. And I think now he's okay. But at the time he was fighting with it, so he ended up going up there, and then he wanted me to come up and speak. Because a lot of the things that they do, they're related to what we do. You know, calling on a higher power. You know, they try to be as ecumenical as possible. They don't name it, but calling on a higher power. Sangha, to give you the strength to avoid, you know, like that. So anyway, I went up there, and I gave a little talk. But usually what happens is you stand up and you say, my name is John Smith. I'm an alcoholic. And I've been clean for, you know, 6 months or 2 years. I've got the coin. They give you a coin, you know. I haven't had a drink, but this was like years ago. I hadn't had a drink for like 45 years when I used to take a few beers when I was 18, you know, when a kid. So I couldn't really say I'm an alcoholic. And I've got a coin that says 45 years, and you know, I don't think they make them that way. But the point is, there's a certain relationship there, and that is that you need the help of a higher power. You know, it's like we need Krishna, we need the mercy of all the acharyas, we need the devotees to be able to practice devotional service. And once you start calling out to Krishna through the holy name, then everything changes. How many times have we heard that just one utterance of the holy name, even without devotion, even indifferently, you know, eradicates eons of bad karma, you know? It seems like a get-out-of-jail-free card almost, you know what I mean? But you're not really out, because if you don't keep chanting and really become attracted to Krishna and develop love for Krishna, then just being free is not enough. You'll plug the fan back in. You know what I mean? And we've seen, you know, devotees who don't persevere and become strict, you can get attached again. We just read the Gundicha temple. You know that pastime? There's a pastime where Lord Chaitanya cleans the Gundicha temple, which is in Jagannath Puri. And when they have the Rath Yatra, Lord Jagannath, Subhadra and Baladev, they stay at that Gundicha temple that represents Vrindavan. They stay for a week and then they go back. So it's about, a couple of miles out of the city. So Lord Chaitanya has a pastime. We just heard it. It's a wonderful pastime in the Madhya Lila, I believe. Yeah, Madhya 12. Where Lord Chaitanya took all his devotees and he personally started cleaning the Gundicha temple. And talk about cleaning. They were really cleaning. He was sweeping, and they were all sweeping, and then they brought 100 pots, big pots of water, waiting for his signal, and finally when all the dust was out, they threw water up on the ceilings also, came down, cleaned everything, and become very, very clean, And after the whole pastime, Srila Prabhupada, quoting mostly from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's commentary, he, gives some insight into the deep meaning of this pastime. And I remember first reading that, and how it really struck me. And that is that we have to clean our hearts so that Krishna will be pleased to sit there. In other words, he's already there, but he'll be pleased to be there and allow us to know that he's there and we can relate to him. But he won't stay if it's not clean. He'll be there as a super soul, always, but we want him to be, personally as Shyamasundar. So that means we have to clean out the things, and there are all of these anarthas, the lust, the greed, the anger, the grievances, and longings, material hopes, aspirations. All of those are unwanted things. They're unclean. We have to purify until there's one aspiration left. So how can I please Krishna? How can I please my spiritual master? Where's the next service? Take your pleasure in service with the senses rather than trying to gratify the senses. So what he explains there is that even after cleaning, dust, just like in our apartment or home, whatever, dust again can accumulate. You have to clean and keep it clean by the regular practice, And so that's how we can really attain firm vairagya. And that's what's described here. Anasaktasya vishayan, without attachment to the objects of the senses, but yatarham, where appropriate, upayunjita, engaging them in Krishna's service. Just like food, a huge attachment, right? So we all have to eat, and we all can, eat our favorite food. You can go down to Ralph's there. You can go down, walk down the snack alley, the aisle. And there's 100,000 of them. There seem to be, they've got you covered, whatever your particular taste is, So if you could take that, it's unofferable completely, but you can eat it and enjoy, That's the opposite of vairagya. That's going down the road of more and more attachment. But here, the raw materials, the flour and the butter and the salt and all the things we use to make prasadam, we can prepare that with the consciousness that this will be enjoyed by Krishna, right? That itself is purifying. It's not for me, Krishna, and then we'll offer it, and then we'll give the remnants to the devotees, And after it's offered nicely in the proper consciousness, then it's distributed, then you can taste it, and you can feel it's a reciprocation from Krishna. It's an exchange of love. He just said in a few verses back, Patpram pushtam palam toyam yome bhaktya priyachati. I will accept within these simple categories of leaves, flour, fruit, water, milk, vegetarian. I will accept those offerings and eat them when they're offered with love. He mentions bhakti twice in that little verse, right? So he's looking for the love. Now what?
Can I, thank you for the class, can I ask a question?
All right, 1 minute, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the point is that the hope, as I've emphasized, and Krishna's emphasizing here, is that this verse says you get bound up to Krishna. Krishna Sambandhe. You're not bound up by the Vishayas. Now we're bound up by all of these objects of senses. But if we learn how, the technique of using our words, using our mind, all these senses, and the normal object of the senses in Krishna's service, then we can attain true vairagya, which means yukta vairagya, very strong vairagya. Rather than, being artificially detached will be detached from deep inside. There won't be the slightest desire anymore. Yamunacharya will say, "Well, how could I ever enjoy that?" And spit at the thought, And rather, you're enjoying varieties of service to Krishna. So that's real vairagya, which we want to attain. Okay, Dhanavari, I'm ready.
Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhu, thank you. My question is, if when we are cooking and if someone doesn't remember that I'm cooking for Krishna, he'll be happy or not, rather than if someone thinks that devotees, brahmacharis will be happy I'm cooking, is that a good mood, or is still a misra of bhakti, or it's not pure, I know, but is it good or is it okay?
It's not the best. You should be thinking that Krishna will take it and that he will enjoy, and that part of his enjoyment will be seeing that the devotees are enjoying it, just like we sing Chaturvadha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Svadvano Chittan Hari Bhakta Sanghan Kvitvaiva Triptim Bhajadaksadaiva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam. That the spiritual master, who's in the same position as the Lord in this case, he is always offering or teaching us how to offer these different kinds of foodstuffs, Chaturvadha Shri Bhagavat Prasada Svadvana Triptan. When he sees the devotees are satisfied in taking prasadam, then he becomes satisfied. He's not satisfied just taking himself, but he's seeing that the others are satisfied. And so many places in Lord Chaitanya, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you see the pastime of distributing the prasadam. Lord Chaitanya wanted to serve out, and the devotee said, "No, nobody's going to eat unless they see you eating, Lord." So he had to sit down, and take. There's so much, and it's always. That mood of this is pleasing to Krishna, and so that should be our meditation. And a pendant to that, in other words, we can think how this will be distributed. Krishna's mercy will be distributed, and the devotees and the brahmacharis or whatever will enjoy. They'll be also able to honor this Krishna prasadam. But the basic point is always to remember Krishna. In the cooking, the cleaning, the preparing, the marketing, and the distribution, and the honoring of prasad. Can I go on?
Yeah, Prabhu, thank you so much.
Okay.
And the bhav is not there, but hopefully, slowly it will have to remind myself, because I don't do that often. Sometimes it happens, so.
Okay, you have to work at it. That's the sadhana. All right, text 29,
Thank you so much.
very important verse. Samoham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion as a friend is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Okay, dvesha. All right, the word envy here means bearing malice. You see the word dvesha? Hateful. It's not that Krishna envies someone because of what they have. That's one meaning of the word. But Prabhupada often used envy to mean bear malice, and that's what he means here. Purport. One may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is his special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees who are always engaged in his transcendental service? But this is not discrimination. It is natural. Any man in this material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity, in whatever form, is his son, and so he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud which pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on rock or land or water. But for his devotees he gives specific attention, or special attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They are always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore they are always transcendentally situated in Krishna. The very phrase Krishna consciousness suggests that those who are in such consciousness are living transcendentalists situated in him. The Lord says here distinctly, Mahite, they are in me. Naturally, as a result, the Lord is also in them. This is reciprocal. This also explains the words, Ye yata mam prapadyante tang sathaiva bhajamyaham. Whoever surrenders unto me, proportionally I take care of him. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time, the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. And when the living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is like a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. Living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, then there's no personalist philosophy. In the impersonal philosophy, there is no reciprocation between the Supreme and the living entity, but in the personalist philosophy, there is. The example is often given that the Lord is like a desire tree, and whatever one wants from this desire tree, the Lord supplies. But here the explanation is more complete. The Lord is here stated to be partial to the devotees. This is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy to the devotees. The Lord's reciprocation should not be considered to be under the law of karma. It belongs to the transcendental situation in which the Lord and his devotees function. Devotional service to the Lord is not an activity of this material world. It is part of the spiritual world where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate. So, this is a very significant verse. Krishna is not partial in that anyone who has the intelligence, who's evolved to the human state, say, has an opportunity to perform devotional service. Famously, Lord Chaitanya uplifted the lowest members of society. Haridas Thakur, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, who were great Brahmins. They were born, but they had been degraded because of their association, and others. There was no bar to attaining pure love of God, just surrendering to Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna, and surrendering to the Lord. So that's proof of this verse. Krishna is not, intrinsically hateful or envious, as Prabhupada would say, toward anyone. The trouble we have is entirely self-caused. It's entirely due to our own rebellion against the Lord. Bhayam tutiya banaveshitaksya adisherapetasya viparyosmati. Again, in the 11th canto, the 9 Yogendras are explaining what's the source of fear. Fear is inherent in this material world. And now it's become more than ever. People are trying to cope with the situation now, and it's having a big effect, as you probably know, mentally, mental health. All this isolation and dread. So, what's the cause of it? Is it just it's going to be no matter what? No, it's not going to be no matter what. It started when we turned away from Krishna. That's what this verse means. Isha petasya. Isha is Krishna, is the Lord. We turned away from him. And we became absorbed in this material energy. It's called vidya binaveshita. In this world of duality. Isha petasya. Viparyosmati. And everything is upside down. Instead of being the humble servants of the Lord, we try to be the masters of material energy. Right? And trying to enjoy, dominate, be the controllers and enjoyers. And it's just not our position. And so we get smashed again and again. And it's caused by Maya, tanmahayato. So the Buddha, the intelligent person, what do? Turn again to the Lord and start worshiping him. How? Bhakti aikayation, with one-pointed, sincere devotion, not materially motivated. And a very important point the verse ends with, what you end with is often the most important thing. Guru Devatatma, to see one's preceptor, one's guru, spiritual master as one's very self and worshipable Lord. That has to be there. The intercessor, because we're too impure to approach Krishna directly. But out of his mercy, the guru approaches us, and we can directly relate through that. So that medium has to be there. So anyone can do it, Krishna's not barring anyone. In that sense, he's completely samoham, means equal to everyone. I don't envy anyone. I don't favor anyone. But those who worship me with love, I am in them and they are in me. In other words, we have an intimate relationship. Krishna takes special attention. We learn this from the beginning of the Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, famous verse, Shrinvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtan. Those who hear about me with devotion, with ardent attention, the Shushusho, Shrinvatam Sukata. Shrinvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana. Just hearing about him brings punya, means good fortune. I, situated in the heart, cleanse away all these abhadras, these inauspicious things. All of our material desires, the more intense and sincere you are, the quickly they dissipate, become weaker and weaker, the more you're attached to Krishna. And he goes on, every day, whenever I give Bhagavatam class, this verse, Nashta Prayasha Bhadreshu, when those abhadras or unwanted things are almost cleansed away, 75% Prabhupada says one place, then you attain a state of nishta, that ladder from faith to love. Very important platform is nishta, when the anartas have been nivritti, have been destroyed to a large degree, through bhajan, association, serious devotion. So that nishta, then you're beginning to get some taste. That taste is all important. Taste for the holy name, taste for serving the Lord, for seeing the deities, all the services. You really want to go to the kirtan. You don't want to go to the club. You want to go to the kirtan. That's a very auspicious position. So that ruchi is the first hints of love of Godhead. It's not that you wait till nishta to get any ruchi. If we weren't getting ruchi at the beginning stage, we wouldn't stay. That was the great genius of Prabhupada. Emphasize, chanting Hare Krishna, taking prasadam. Anyone can relate to prasadam, And many could relate, to the chanting. And if you're willing to sit for an hour, and Prabhupada would give these hour-long kirtans, you can imagine listening to Prabhupada chant an hour long. How purifying could that be, Then naturally, say, wow, where did that high come from? This is the 60s, They even had a pamphlet, Stay High Forever. You read that? Very brilliant. Prabhupada said, yes, print that. Somehow or other get a taste for chanting Hare Krishna, and you're way far along, compared to the average person. So Krishna responds reciprocally. This natural, I was thinking of this verse, and then I read it in the purport. Ye dhamma papadyante, dham sadaiva bhajamiham. As we surrender to Krishna, he reciprocates accordingly. And everyone is worshipping me in their own way. There's this verse. This is the one I remember. I remembered a bunch of them, but this is the one I really remember. In the 87th chapter of the Bhagavatam, there's the prayers personified Vedas. So, I've been here a long time. We went through the whole Bhagavatam once already, and the 10th canon, and got to that chapter. This will be a real challenge for you when we get there. Writing that, these are the longest verses in the Bhagavatam. I'd like to see how he's going to write it and still be readable. Sometimes now it's not so readable. So, so each one is, so this verse talks about that, about, how one who is serving you, then the body becomes very dear, and is paraphernalia for service. So it's Twananupatam Kulai Minamapmasarit Priyavat Chadatit Muket Vihite Priya Atmanicha Nabadadamandaho Asadupasana Yapmahano Yanunsha Brahme Udubwe Kusharira Bata. So all these verses are great. So it says, my dear Lord, the Vedas, praying to Mahavishnu. My dear Lord, a human form is just adequate, is very appropriate for serving you. And when one serves you with all the senses and the mind and everything, then the body becomes their best friend and very dear as paraphernalia for service. And on your side, as the super soul, you're very happy in directing them like that. Everything is fine. But alas, those who don't take their pleasure in serving you and instead worship the impermanent, mammon, asadupasanaya, there's the phrase. What happens? Asadupasanaya atmahano, that's virtual suicide for the soul. And that's what everyone is doing, right? And what's the result? Yadunushaya brahme, trying to satisfy his body, they wander around different, very difficult bodies, bad bodies, subhuman bodies, which only bring fear and difficulty like that. Alas, wonderful purport by Gopi Pranadhana Prabhu, drawing on all the acharyas. They commented on this. So that's that's our choice. It's our choice. We've made a choice, and then we get bound up, birth after birth, in making similar choices. That's our karma. You're born into a family, of fools and rascals, and you, as a child, what are you going to learn? But that's part of the Sankirtan movement, somehow making people fortunate so that they can do even a little service. I remember at a certain point we'd go around, I learned how, devotees would sometimes just ask passersby, do you have the time? Oh, sure, it's at 8:05. They did some service, they did some service. It's Ajata Sukriti. I see nobody picks pennies up anymore, right? They just, but that's, it's legal tender, so I pick it up. Somebody dropped it and put it in the box. It's Ajata Sukriti. Somehow or other linked them up to Krishna as a start, you know what I mean? So that's what Krishna is saying. I'm equal, but those who worship me, then I respond reciprocally and I help them. And so that's where prayer comes in. We can really pray. There's so many wonderful prayers. Tvayame ananya vishaya mati madhupate sakrit ratamun mahadarad gange bhaugamadhanvati. Okay, it's for extra credit. Who uttered this prayer? Famous Queen Kunti. Queen Kunti's prayers. So this is near the end of her prayers, and Krishna's going to leave, she's not going to see him again. O Madhava, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. Now there's no reason in the world where we can't go before the deity and pray like that. Oh Giridhari, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee. No, the whole point of the Bhagavatam is giving you prayers and giving you, things you can take and use. So this one we can definitely. So that's that focuses our attention and intention. We can utter it, even though we may have so many other confusions. This helps us to focus and get the mercy of the Lord, and become detached and from Maya and attached to Krishna. All right, we don't have time to go through the text 30 right now, which is another important verse Prabhupada would always quote. So instead, in the remaining time, I'll give you a couple more poems. We have just amount of time for Kevalashtaka. I'll give you the first verse in Sanskrit. You ever heard of Kevalashtaka? Maybe. It's about the holy name. Maduram Madarebhyopi Mangalebhyopi Mangalam Pavanam Pavanebhyopi Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. You recognize that line, hopefully. Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. From Brahma's realm atop the sky, down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Mahadevi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari, the holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. He's the Guru, he's the Father, he's the friend most true, and she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always chant and hear the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Now this is for you and me. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Lord Shri Hari forever dwells wherever devotees, whose hearts are fixed on Him and free of all impurities, uplift their voices high and sing His name in ecstasy. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Alas, what sorrow, what great pain, the worst calamity, for people to forget the holy name of Shri Hari. Although the name's a priceless gem, mere broken glass they see. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Just fill your ears, just fill them with the name of Shri Hari. Just chant the name with all sincerity. Just sing the holy name eternally. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. It makes this world appear like bits of straw upon the ground. Resplendently it reigns supreme, divinity and sound. It's filled with transcendental bliss and peerless purity. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Inspired to glorify the holy name of Shri Hari, Shri Nilakanta wrote this hymn in Sanskrit poetry. I pray that those who hear this lowly version made by me will chant the holy name of Shri Hari in ecstasy. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, let's adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Hari Hari Bol. If you want any poetry, write to me. Dravida108 @gmail. Hare Krishna.